The VGRT Gaming Podcast, episode 754, recorded on May 29, 2025.
Hello and welcome to the 754th edition of the TD Gaming Podcast and 587th episode of Video Game Roundtable. I'm TJ Dunzer.
And I am Jonah Falcon.
The VGRT Gaming Podcast focuses on game news from around the industry.
Yeah, Scott is a little late, so we'll let you know when he re-enters. What is it? Oh yeah, Blank has entered the chat. Which one did that, actually? Which was the thing that had, someone has entered the chat?
I think it was one of the
something like AOL, something like that. I don't know. I don't remember, but I just remember someone has entered the chat. Anyways, we're gonna talk about this one before we talk. The U.S. court has blocked Trump's tariffs, but PC hardware isn't out of the water yet, so we'll see what happens. Just a lot of confusion going on right now.
Yeah, that's that was kind of a big deal too, because like he's been using those things he's been using tariffs as kind of his main weapon in this stupid fucking.
Here's the thing. Tariffs, the 3 times they used them, backfired badly. And one of them we might know of is the Great Depression.
Well, at this point also he has fully lost a lot of lost a lot of
Elon Musk just quit. Maybe seeing his rocket blow up for the third time did something to him, but he's just quit now.
Well, he wasn't expecting everybody to hate him when he started slashing Medicaid and veterans benefits.
But it wasn't even that. Now he's quit on Trump. So the bad press wasn't enough to get him to quit, but now the Trump treating him like shit got him to quit. And now Trump's whining about Putin not listening to him. Bitch, he's your boss. He's not going to listen to you.
Of course he's not, yeah.
What did he think? No, you're his bitch.
Exactly.
You want a lot of money. So, anyways, what have you been playing, TJ?
I've been still cracking at Civ 7. You know what I did? Jonah, actually? After I talked about Civ 7 last week? I re-downloaded Civ 6, and I've been playing a game in Civ 7, and I've been playing a game in Civ 6. And it kind of, solidifies a few of the problems that I think I have with Civ 7. I don't like that you have to gather your troops onto a commander, and the commander is the only one that levels up ever, and you have to it works similar to the Army General, but the commanders in Civ 7 are so much more pivotal to the point where if you lose one, it's just you might as well just reload a save or something because they are that crucial to the entirety of your army.
There's another thing that people talk about, and that's the fact that during war, other countries will just trade you their towns like they're nothing. It's try and get a civilization to give up one of their towns in Civ 6.
I had the opposite effect where I got into a big war with Xerxes, and I was taking cities from him, and he kept trying to make deals with me to end the war and give him back the city I just took. It was no. It's I don't know. I also I kind of miss the districts. I miss the districts that had you built the amphitheater district or the industrial district, and then you had buildings within that district. And that district could benefit from other districts being nearby. I don't know. I like that a little bit better than just sprawling nothingness as far as what the city building is in this one. Or everything goes into the main city and you just improve the tiles instead. I don't know.
User engagement of Civ 7 has plummeted big time since launch.
Here's the
thing.
It's a very pretty game, and it's very I don't know. There's something missing.
The problem is that the more you play, the more games are all the same. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're disengaging is because the games are they don't change. They never change, no matter who you have in the. So anyways, have you played anything else other than... I know that there was a new character announced for Tekken.
Armor King. which is pretty cool. Everybody was really mad about the previous guy because there's fuck him Ram. That's how I think you say his name. But he came in at the end of Tekken 7, and he's a Muay Thai kickboxer, and that guy was just a problem on day one all the way into the end of the game. And it was like when they announced Armor King, it kind of made people a lot. It was kind of like everybody was like, "We forgive you. Thank you for announcing Armor King. We're back on track to liking this now." There's been like a lot of back and forth on Tekken 8 because they made some changes to offense in the game and power and like armor moves that are like they make the big bodies like Jack 8 and Kuma and some of the other big hard hitting characters a little too hard hitting. And so there's been a lot of back and forth over whether the state of the game and what people think of it. It's interesting, but it feels like they're kind of getting back on track to like making things work again.
I haven't been really playing anything new, but I do know Metaphor or Fantasio just dropped on Game Pass, so obviously I'm going to continue the character. I'm kind of actually on the fence. Do I want to continue the character I was playing in demo? I didn't really get that far, or do I just want to start over? You know, that's the big conundrum I have right now. It isn't like I spent 30 hours on it. You know, I only spent like an hour. So, and I know the game's hella long. So yeah, it's a big question. I actually purchased Super Mega Baseball 4 for the entire thing, the base game and all the DLC for $6. And I'm enjoying it. I know that it's not what people really wanted. I think part of it was that it was really overpriced. I think Electronic Arts thought too much of the game 2 years ago. But $6, I'm having a ball. It's not that much, you know. Perfect price point for Super Mega Baseball 4. Mm-hmm. I know you played the first two games. I don't know if you played the third game.
I didn't have a chance to get around to the third one.
Okay. Yeah, the third was kind of disappointing because it added all these league aspects, but it wasn't really all that filled out. And then 4 feels better. It feels better than 3. So if you happen to see it for $5 for everything with DLC included, you might as well grab it.
Fair enough.
I'm a Moonstar as always. I always like having the Ultra. That's the one with the elite starting staff, and I like the logo. So that's always been my team. The players are all the same. So, but now I've actually started signing and releasing people. Like I released an old guy and got an infielder who really can't hit, but is an amazing defense. So I have him as my backup, so that when I do pinch hit for one of my infielders, I have someone who can just suck up the baseballs like nothing else.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm slowly growing my ego. It's now at 55. I'm still getting used to the way this game does stuff. Fortunately, it isn't always pop-up ground out. I haven't reached that point at least. I still hate the way it does power. I really just have me press X and that's it. You don't have to have me, hold it and then release. I don't like that. It doesn't work with Super Mega Baseball. It may work with MLB The Show, but it doesn't work here. And also, I did not buy, this year's MLB The Show. It's not on Game Pass, and I don't think it's anything different. So, right now, this will be what I play for baseball, and it's not that big of a thing. I mean, they do have real life Hall of Famers if you want to go that route. I don't need the Super Mega Baseball version of Kirby Puckett, for instance. I don't. So, yeah, I've been doing that, and I also have been doing Into the Restless Ruins, but I've hit a wall, and I just think I have to grind a bit so that I get a lot more strength to do it. Because now it's just really hard. When they do a horde, it's like, oh damn it, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. So yeah, but I did find out that there's a 50% quitters thing if you decide to end your run before you actually. So if I want to quit fast, maybe I should just die quickly and say, yeah, I just die. I get rid of this one and start over again. So that was actually, one thing I should try is doing one of the earlier levels, but using some of the more brutal perks or what do they call it? Mutations, I guess. Like and just make them really hard so that I can finish them, but I get more points for finishing them. Like I said, Into the Riskless Ruin, I said, oh, it looks kind of easy. And no, and once you get into 5th dungeon, then it's really, really hard. So if you like I haven't played Blueprints in a while, like for a week or so. Those are the two big dungeon roguelikes. One, you're building a house. The other one, you're building a dungeon.
Yeah.
With the dungeon, and this is the one that'll kick your ass the most, is that the dungeon will get really, really huge, and there's no mini-map. And you have a torch that's going out. So you have to use your memory to figure out where you went. And sometimes I just forget.
Huh.
No matter how hard I study my own dungeon, it's like I forget. Because the light is getting smaller, too. So, anyways. Oh, Scott is here. Hello, Scott.
Hi.
Welcome.
So, Scott, you were watching the JRPG video today.
The Indie Quest, yeah. There were 40 different trailers in there, so there was a lot to see.
Was there anything that caught your eye?
Yeah, there were several games, actually. There was Tactics Returners, there was Dreamed Away, Godshard, Seed of Nostalgia, Forge of the Fae, and several games there, and it really spanned a whole variety of different kinds of JRPGs, some that looked like Earthbound and some that looked like Persona and different 3D games that have been like, I think Runa was one that I've seen before. There was a lot. But what really surprised me was apparently there's this indie crossover game called Infinite Alliance that's coming out sometime next year, where several indie developers are like, they have one character from their game in this game, and it's free. So I guess it's like
the games that were actually revealed. There's a few that are highlighted here, like Tactics Returners.
Yes.
Artist Impact.
Yep.
Those are the stuff. That name just tells me that you'd love that kind of game.
Yeah.
Infinite Alliance.
Yeah, that's the free one. That's going to come out next year.
Free game with optional purchases, and the proceeds go to charity. Okay. There's one game here called "You Are Not Money Girl."
Oh, that's funny. I wish listed a bunch, but like I said, there was a lot.
It's an RPG about self-care. You have to manage your physical and emotional health as you guide Bunny Girl through a lab of malfunctioning robots. Nice, interesting look. It's very monochromatic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I did not watch any of them, so I have no idea what they are. Project BS.
Yeah, Tactics Returner is a tactical RPG game. It's also pixel top-down. I'm having trouble remembering stuff because it was just, so many.
Actually, Project B looks like a gacha game. It looks like a gacha game. I don't know if it is a gacha game.
I don't think any of the games there were gacha. I don't think so.
It looks like a gacha game, so it's not a gacha game, but it looks so much like any given gacha game in terms of look.
Are you talking about like Genshin Impact?
No, yeah, this is called Project BS.
Okay.
I don't even know if that's the name they're going to give it with, but it's sort of like Sifu, except a 3D world.
Let's see if I can.
Anyways, what have you been playing, Scott?
I've been playing Lunar 2. I went back to that game after finishing the DLC for Sea of Stars. So that's what I'm working on right now.
Okay. Well, anyways, we're going to move on to the quick news. Dune Awakening's endgame, Deep Desert area, has a PvE zone, too. You can explore a 24-kilometer portion of the Deep Desert without worrying about fighting other players. I'm only vaguely aware of the Dune MMO. How about you guys? Have you checked Outer Rim at all?
Let's see, Outer Rim?
Dune Awakening.
Oh, no, I haven't. I have not played that one at all or seen it.
MMO.
Sorry, I was muted. I previewed that game like maybe a couple months ago. I thought it was cool. There's a lot to it, and the reason why they've taken so long to why they've delayed it a few times is because they're like building a social political end game onto it where people will.
We talked about this. You're gonna have they're gonna have guilds able to create really their own laws, and one of the laws they may make is if you die, you lose all your stuff in PvP.
Mm-hmm. And you're supposed to be able to rise to the point where you start out as a singular person, as you just normal survival, scrap, burn, gather resources, build your base, all that stuff. But eventually you're supposed to get to the point where you have a full-on corporation, guild, faction that you'll battle for control of the landscape and its resources. And the spice game near the end of the game is supposed to be pretty intense. I am excited for the potential of this game. I am curious to see if they can stick the landing, because what they're talking about with that end game sounds ridiculously ambitious.
Well, they're doing an entire sandbox, and one thing that they stress here is that PvP is always optional. So we'll see. I mean, here's the thing. I'm a solo player. I used to play D&D solo, just do a lot of pubs. And the thing is that one of the worst things is that the end game is almost always PvP based. Always. And this one is bragging that it'll have PvE end game content.
Yeah. And also, just that politics system is going to be, I'm curious to see what that looks like and how that ends up playing in actual practice.
Well, listen to this. PvP is always optional. Participate in major ground-to-air battles in the deep desert, or support the efforts from behind the front lines through PvE activities like crafting to secure power in the Lands Rod. Play politics. So I get it. So what happens is that you can actually influence your faction by doing stuff on your own that doesn't involve PvP,
Yeah. It looks like there's going to be a lot as far as just what you do inside and outside of, and also being able to control an empire where you actually drop spice extractors off in desert regions and then try to get them out of there before worms arrive. That seems like it seems like people are actually, the ambition they talk about sounds similar-ish to the kind of stuff that we see in EVE Online, where people actually have jobs in that game for things that they do. Somebody will go out and do mining. Somebody will do guard over the miners. And this seems similar-ish, where you're going to need somebody that can pilot the ornithopter out there, somebody that can pilot the extractor, somebody that can look after the extractor from other factions,
and then
get them out of there with the spice.
It looks a lot like Star Wars: The Old Republic in terms of graphics.
It does, yeah. It's going to be an interesting game, though. I don't know if it'll succeed. It will be it'll very much depend on how many people can get past the initial hurdle of just basic survival game and get towards that end game where it's supposed to get ridiculous.
I haven't done an MMO in a decade. The last one was 2015. I think it was Richard Garriott's Tabula Rasa, I think it was. So I may give this one a chance. Oh, wait, I did play Star Wars: The Old Republic, though. But I might give this one a chance. I mean, if they're going to cater to us solo players who don't like to be tied down to any one group,
Pardon.
I just want to be part of House Atreides and just do my thing.
Yeah, and so far they've confirmed that Atreides is going to be a faction. Harkonnen is obviously going to be a faction.
The Emperor has to be. I wonder. I know if the Bene Gesserit are an available faction, I'll do them.
I do know that you can play as that's a class that you can play as a Bene Gesserit, where they have mental abilities.
Okay, because in the Dune board game, the Bene Gesserit were their own faction, and they had their own special win condition. But yeah, maybe I can be a guild navigator.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, PowerWash Simulator goes underground, overground, and the final free content update. The Muckingham File 6 has a subway and a park, and it's gone a long while, been around for a while. So it'll be interesting to see what the developers Future Lab do after PowerWash Simulator.
Yeah, that game has had such a long tail of just awesome content. It's kind of ridiculous how popular that game got. And it's super relaxing and super almost therapeutic up until you get to 99%. You need to find the 1% of dirt underneath the lip of a stairway somewhere. Yeah. But yeah, the amount of DLC they've had, they had SpongeBob DLC, and then they had Doom DLC. They've had Warhammer 40K DLC where you got to clean like temples in Warhammer 40K.
That's very important.
Yes.
Well,
so
and now today just came out Spray Paint Simulator, not by the same developer. This is by North Star Video Games.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also on Game Pass, so it'll be interesting to see. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, hold on. I need to see that because I actually haven't seen Spray Paint Simulator.
It's basically the opposite. You're coloring things instead of taking away color. At least crime.
Oh, it looks fun.
Yeah. It's only $15 too, so.
Reminds me of that Finji color game.
Oh, the one that was nominated for best game by Game Stooge a while ago.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh God, no, I have to remember.
Chicory, yeah, Chicory.
Right.
Yes.
There we go. That was a really cute one. Where you just color the stuff any color you want, and
seems like I don't think you can paint all your own colors and do a mishmash. I think you might have to paint by number.
it's you can select. You have like spaces, and then you select the color you want to put in there. It is like a limited selection of colors, but they do.
Are you talking about Chicory, or are you talking about Power or Spray Paint Simulator?
The Chicory.
No, I'm talking about Spray Paint Simulator.
Okay, sorry.
So you have your own spray painting. So you have to earn your stripes. No worries though. So you actually are just bringing out the colors. So it's a sort of a reverse PowerWash Simulator. Instead of taking away grime, you're just refreshing the colors. I've been having a lot of fun, by the way, with crime scene cleanup. Crime scene, that's really fun. That's basically Viscera cleanup detail, except you're cleaning up the crime. What's a video of it? Actually,
yeah. I remember watching you play that. That was a fun one.
Yeah. So, Persona 4 voice actor confirmed the remake is in development after not being cast, and another actor came forward and said they're not involved either. So, Persona 4 is apparently getting a remake, which shouldn't be too surprising, because they already remade Persona 3.
That is a very funny thing to see happen. Just like, I mean, Yuri Lowenthal is a pretty popular voice actor in video games and TV shows. For those who don't know, he voices he voices Nero in Devil May Cry 4 and 5. He also plays a few other pretty popular characters. I think he's played in some of the Gundam animes. For him to just outright say, like,
he didn't outright say it. It was on his resume. It was on his resume that said, like a LinkedIn resume, he was considered but was not cast for Persona 4 Remake.
He posted it on Blue Sky. I saw it. I saw the post before he deleted it. He straight up posted, like, unfortunately, I was not asked, although I may have begged to come back for the Persona 4 Remake, to which, like, 1,300 replies said, Persona 4 Remake? And
it's obvious, why wouldn't they make a remake of it? They already did 3. They did a pseudo remake of 5, and they still can make another remake of 5.
And that's such an interesting thing to happen because Atlas, for those who don't know, is notoriously mean about spoilers. Like, they're Nintendo levels of petty about spoilers.
This isn't a spoiler. No one's giving away the plot.
Spoiling the announcement of their game is a spoiler to them.
Well, here's the thing. Whenever you have something like this, when people think it might be coming out, it gets much more exciting when it's officially announced.
Mm-hmm.
Ask any console, say the Switch 2, although a lot of the enthusiasm for that is dampened a bit. Persona 4 has always seemed like the black sheep of 3, 4, and 5, though.
Which one? Persona 4?
Persona 4 seemed like the black sheep of 3, 4, and 5.
That's hard to say. They're like fans of 3, 4, and 5 that like the one and don't like the others. Persona 4 is it has some of the most iconic characters in the series. Like Kanji is a pretty beloved character, as is the character that Yuri Lowenthal voices. And I think it's just kind of like a preference. Persona 5 is definitely where the series caught fire, and like everybody in the world now knows about it. That's the definite fact of that situation. But like, I think
Persona 1 and 2.
But I've personally been a fan of Persona 4 just because they have the Persona 4 fighting game, the Persona 4 Arena.
Yeah, that, by the way, for a long time, that was the only thing the Xbox got was that fighting game.
Yeah. And that game was freaking awesome, and was was kind of my introduction to the Persona series. Not to say I haven't played like some of the Devil Survivor and Shin Megami Tensei stuff, but it's going to be interesting to see if this one catches the way that Persona 3 Remake did, because Persona 3 Remake is also pretty awesome.
Yeah. So, moving on. EA Sports College 26 adds crossplay Dynasty, 300 coaches and trophy rooms. They released the trailer today. Actually, this is the second trailer they released. And I don't give a shit because it's going to be shit. It's going to be terrible. 25 was terrible. 26 can't be better. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm wise to you, EA. I'm wise to you. I know a lot of people came out of the gate loving it, but that's only because they had these sports mascots and stuff like that. But the gameplay was terrible. Awful. I didn't understand why people liked it. It was worse than Madden for me. Oh, yeah, you get to do option plays. Who cares? Sorry. I find it hard to be enthusiastic about college football. 26. On that hand, Star Wars Battlefront 2 breaks its concurrent player record count on Steam. After 8 years after its initial release, Battlefront 2 is having a resurgence, and I don't know why. It's not like they released any new DLC for it. Sometimes games just catch on again. DJ, can you hear me? You're muted again.
Apologies. Like, with all this... Well, anyways. We're talking about Star Wars Battlefront, right?
Yeah, Battlefront 2 has all of a sudden gotten big again.
That's sort of surprising, because the game wasn't very fun when it first came out, in my opinion. It was like very, very flashy, but not very deep. And so I played it for like probably about a month, and then I was like, I'm bored. Time to move on. I know that it got tons of content in like the years after the fact, and became like a really, really good game according to what other folks say. But like, I think it was the Andor stuff recently coming out, and like the recent Fortnite stuff that put the spotlight on Star Wars, that got people looking at Battlefront 2 again. Because if it got better, it was never like terrible. It was just kind of didn't have enough going on when it first launched. So 8 years later, with all the content that it has now, I can see why people would jump back in and check that out again.
Oh, there might be another reason. And it could be a message being sent by fans. One of the Andor actors, Mohammed Ben Amour, who plays Wilman Pak, said, Star Wars got to get us a Battlefront 3 ASAP. So, and then he showed a screenshot of his playtime in Battlefront 2, revealing he played 469 hours in the game, and said he's been a veteran since day one. So that might have spurred people, A, to play it because a famous actor has said he plays it. But also, it's sort of like telling EA, hey, look, we're all playing Battlefront 2. Give us a Battlefront 3.
I don't know if they'll do that anytime soon. It would be interesting, but I feel like they've got a lot of irons in the fire as far as Star Wars goes already. Because they're still doing like new Jedi stuff, and then they're also doing that strategy game.
Yeah, I was wondering, who is doing the XCOM Star Wars game?
The group is called Bit Reactor, and it's like formed from...
Right. I know that.
Yeah.
Did they work for EA, or did EA hire them out?
EA hired them out.
Right.
They're not like part of EA. They're just they're a third-party studio that stepped in to help with it. Since they're made up of XCOM veterans.
That doesn't always say a lot, because Phoenix Point was made by an XCOM veteran, the very first XCOM veteran, and that game was not very good.
Yeah, agreed. But I mean, like, it's a studio that kind of was around Jake Solomon for the first and second game that just broke off eventually.
Well, they did a lot of games that I really like. So didn't they do the Marvel's Midnight Suns?
That was for Axis. That was that was like the last Jake Solomon led for Axis game.
I'm trying to remember what.
Bit Reactor is like entirely new. This Star Wars game that they're doing is going to be their first one.
They also helped out with Elder Scrolls Online, Gears of War, Civilization, XCOM.
Yeah, but this Star Wars game is like going to be the first game where they get to put their name on the developer.
But I know I always see their name on the credits of, on the opening credits of games. Their logos there. Anyways, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD-2D Remake will also come to the Nintendo Switch too. It's kind of a no-brainer there, but
I'm looking forward to that game. You get a save bonus. You get a save carryover bonus if you have the third game.
Scott, you're getting the Switch too?
Well, maybe in a year or so after it's released, but I'm definitely getting the Dragon Quest 1 and 2 Remake. They are adding a lot of content to both of the games, and it looks like there might be like a post-game fourth character added to the second Dragon's Quest Remake, and they have hints to the Zenithian trilogy, which is the one I'm really looking forward to, Dragon's Quest 4, 5, and 6. Hopefully they can remake those as well.
Hideo Kojima's next game, Physint, is coming in 5 to 6 years, reportedly a game in the vein of Metal Gear Solid. Oh, great. It'll come out when I'm 60. Wonderful. I don't know. Isn't Hideo Kojima supposed to be making an Xbox game too?
He is. He's making something, I think it's called... It has something to do with addiction. That's the only thing I remember about the name.
And he also says that once he's done with Physint, he hopes to make a major motion picture. Good luck, buddy. You and David Cage think you're writers. Let me give you a hint. You're not. You're not a writer, Hideo. You're actually a very bad writer. The only reason why you get away with it is because it's fun to play your games.
I mean, he did predict a lot of the current society's issues with Metal Gear Solid 2.
It wasn't.
He's weirdly good and prophetic in certain circumstances.
It wasn't really that much of a stretch of a prophecy, though.
The whole idea that social media would just become so powerful that lies are more important than truth if they're popular. That's kind of
that's been done.
Weird.
I saw that on Babylon 5.
But like he nailed it down in Metal Gear Solid 2 in a very, very strangely.
Mark Twain predicted YouTube and YouTube comments and how social media would affect people in A Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court.
It's not that it hadn't been done; it's the way in which he did it that's eerily similar to our reality.
Well, so is Mark Twain's prediction of YouTube.
Are you saying that Hideo Kojima is as good as Mark Twain?
I'm saying social media was around when Hideo Kojima did that shit.
No, I don't think it was at the time.
You never been on News Groups or AOL chat rooms?
AOL might have been.
We definitely had forums, and we definitely had. I thought we had MySpace.
This was 2001, so the internet was very, very young.
Well, that was pre-YouTube.
Yeah, so that's kind of the thing of it is that he talked the stuff he talked about at the end of that game that was like the preeminent reveal of that game was eerily on the nose when it came to how things actually developed in social media and online discourse.
Futurama did it before him.
He also kind of predicted AI becoming a serious problem.
Oh, well, now you know that's been a topic for a long time.
That's been a long time. Even human duplicators in the 50s.
Oh, I know. Harlan Ellison's "I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream" is still one of my favorites when it comes to that. But I'm not here to say that Hideo Kojima is the best.
Hey, Hal 9000 wants a word with you there, TJ.
What's that?
Hal 9000 wants a word with you, TJ. Anyways, we're going to move on to game news, and here's something we've been we should have been talking about the last 2 weeks, but we didn't. So we're gonna go right into it right now. Marathon isn't canceled, and this comes to us from Forbes. Marathon cannot stop being thrown into a fresh drama every few days since its controversial closed alpha led to a string of reports about things going poorly internally, capped off by a revelation that an artist had plagiarized art currently still in the game. Oh, wait, I'm going to stop right there. Bungie's been doing that apparently for years before Marathon. This is nothing new. They've been ripping off artists for a very long time, and now it's sort of blown up. Now we have a worrying report from Colin Moriarty on Sacred Symbols where he says that all paid marketing for Marathon this quarter has been canceled by Sony, which is not true. According to Forbes, in other words, this writer who knows Bungie, the entire marketing plan was thrown out and had to restart from scratch. And plans like a new trailer launching pre-orders and a big public beta a month before launch were not happening. All paid marketing hasn't been erased, however. While there are similarities to Concord, the difference here is that Bungie is not just the storage shooter studio, but one that Sony paid $3.6 billion for. More likely, the game will be delayed until 2026. Yeah, there's sunk cost fallacies. There's also wasting $3.6 billion. They're not going to do that. We're going to have something come out.
You have to remind me what Marathon is, because I don't remember that game at all.
Marathon was originally one of the first-person shooters that Bungie did for the Apple.
Yeah.
They did a trilogy. Marathon Durandal is considered one of the best shooters of the era, which later came on Xbox Live and then later on PlayStation Store. So Sony bought Bungie. One of the original projects that they were going to do for Sony was a live service game, which would be based on Marathon.
You're right. The original was kind of like in a genre of like maze shooters. Marathon was kind of more focused on the maze aspect of it.
Yeah, but there's also Halo and Marathon, and by the way, Destiny all share the same universe, apparently. I'm not sure about Destiny, but I know that Halo and Marathon are definitely interlinked. As a matter of fact, Durandal is one of the name of characters in Halo.
But yeah, I don't know why people would expect them to throw this game away. It's like, I guess because of PlayStation and how they've just kind of shut down studios left and right, and they're so
shutting down studios left and right.
Yeah, but they went on this fucking long kick of, hey, let's do 20 live action games as a service games.
It was 12 and 4 years, which was still a bad idea.
Right. And so now they're at this point where they're just like axing studios left and right because that business model is unsustainable.
A live service game is a huge moneymaker.
Right.
But you should only have 1 or 2 or 3 of them running at the same time. Never. People just have so much time. What Microsoft did was they acquired live service games. I mean, Fallout 76 wasn't theirs. But, it's now part of us. And their own was Oblivion's Grounded. And they tried to make Redfall a live service game. It didn't work. People are starting to enjoy it, though, on PC side. Starting to get a rich resurgence. If only because it's also a good single player.
Yeah. And as far as like Marathon goes, like I've played a little. I played a little bit of it during that last session. It's an extraction shooter, and it's like very, 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 very different from the original in a way that, like, if they didn't call it Marathon, I don't think that anyone would maybe associate it with Marathon.
Yeah, one of the problems they had, though, is a lot of the comments were, this doesn't look like a 2025 game. This looks like a 2015 game. And, I know there's art styles, but sometimes it can look janky. And that's what I heard, is that the graphics are kind of janky.
The graphics are, like, sterile. I don't have feelings for any of the look of it, just because it looks minty and sterile and, like, clean as... None of it...
They were adding... There's a mod that adds the Team Fortress 2 characters to Dune multiplayer.
I didn't. But, like, I feel like you need a little bit of edge to your art. You can't just have it be sleek. I don't know. Marathon doesn't look like it's supposed to be...
One of the things that they said was they had something called a silhouette test. And that you should be able to identify every single character just by their silhouette. And you can in Team Fortress 2. You see the silhouette of the heavy, you say, oh, that's the heavy. So you have to have characters that are memorable and that can be seen. That's why these first Overwatch were so popular, because all the characters are unique and you could tell who they were just from their silhouette, right?
Well, and you look at the original Marathon from 1994, you look at the screenshots for it, it doesn't look sterile. It doesn't look like clean to the point of having no personality whatsoever. It still has personality to it. It still has grit to it. And like the monsters in the original look kind of interesting. So like to see it completely devoid of any sort of, I don't know, recognizable personality in the new one is...
What was it? Oh, Lawbreakers. That was one game that did not have personality in terms of character design.
Cliff Basinski would fight you over that. But...
here's the thing. Say what you want about Lawbreakers. The actual physical combat was extremely buttery smooth. Had Cliff Blazinski just made it free to play, it would still be around today. It was that good of a shooter. But he insisted on making it $40 and no one was going to pay $40 for it.
Like, I'm looking at screenshots of Marathon right now, and there's like these creatures that are like giant hulking slug monsters with big mouths in the middle of their abdomens. Like, where's that in Marathon 2025?
I mean, you can have extraction shooters that work. Remember, what was the name of the game with dwarves that's an extraction shooter? You know the game.
The Deep Rock Galactic.
Deep Rock Galactic. I mean, that is a very popular extraction shooter. I would like to see a sequel because, to me, it's a little bit janky, and I'd like to see it tightened up.
Mm-hmm.
But Deep Rock Galactic is extremely popular because it has personality, and it has that oh crap moment. You know, I ran out of my what's it called? The thing that the grapple. I ran out of grapples. How am I going to get out of here? It's going to take forever for me to dig my way out.
There are just like all sorts of terrible things that can happen in Deep Rock Galactic too that are just and then you have like these drunken dwarves just jawing back and forth during the entire mission.
The other thing is that I seldom ever played multiplayer in Deep Rock Galactic. I enjoyed it as a single player extraction.
Yeah. The dwarves throwing banter back and forth is fun, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, it adds to that whole thing. And also, there was so, me and my buddies were playing that game one time, and we hadn't played in a while, and out of nowhere, this giant robot breaks through the walls, and we didn't know what it was. Apparently, it's like a rare drop super monster that you just need to get the hell away from no matter what, and as fast as you can. And the creepiest part about it is that it like mimics dwarf voices to try to trick you into approaching it. And everything about that thing is cooler than everything going on in Marathon as far as what I've seen so far.
I remember Asheron's Call had random events like that. It would just pop out of nowhere. Anybody remember Asheron's Call? Microsoft's first MMO. But anyways.
I do remember Asheron's Call.
But the problem is that you're right. The game doesn't have any personality. And here's the problem with Halo is that even at their best, the characters are kind of flat. I mean, what does it say when Nathan Fillion is the only one that has any sort of personality?
Yeah.
And then again, he was the only one who had any sort of personality in Destiny, and then Destiny became all about his character for some reason. Anyways, yeah. So Marathon isn't going anywhere. I would like to see it succeed not because it's Bungie, but because, I mean, a good extraction shooter can be fun. Gears of War 4 tried it, 5? One of them did it. Anyways, we're going to move on to the next item. Go ahead, TJ.
Okay. Clair Obscur's runaway success was helped by staying smaller scale from PC Gamer. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a tight 30-hour RPG from a relatively small team that, since release, has sold over 3.3 million copies. In short, it's been a resounding success. Singular and distinct, it looks and feels like nothing else around.
Let's stop there, but that's 3.3 million copies, and that's not counting all the PC and Xbox Game Pass downloads. So when you say 3.3 million copies, it actually probably did like 4 million, just that 700,000 or how many people played it did not pay for it.
Yeah, I don't know. Either way, like they said 3.3 million copies sold, so that probably doesn't include any of that.
That's what I mean. So
yeah.
I mean, it's a very successful game, I think, because a lot of people have talked about it and raved about it.
Here's the thing. A lot of the reason why it sold 3.3 million copies is because it's on Game Pass, and Microsoft showed it off at their thing last year at their, and people were saying, "Oh, okay." And then they saw the comments and said, "Wait a minute, this is turn-based Final Fantasy? Okay, I'm in." It's not exactly turn-based; it's close enough.
Yeah, I do remember that being said.
Was it like people said it was like Persona 5 combat or other Lost Odyssey combat? Anyways, continue on, TJ.
It's a game that's particularly interesting when compared to probably the most well-known turn-based RPG series in the world. As much as people have loved the Final Fantasy games, it's not hard to see how unwieldy they've become. Both Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Final Fantasy XVI failed to meet the mark according to Square Enix's own financial reports. In contrast, Clair Obscur operates in a different development space, smaller scale, with a much smaller budget. Quote, "We have to remember here there was a time when AAA companies were making games like Vanquish and Mirror's Edge and Kane and Lynch, and all of these really cool, interesting, not small games, but smaller scale games." Who says this? Probably the director.
The lead developer.
And you've seen the number of releases from AAA publishers dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. Now there's an opportunity for teams like Sandfall to come in and give players something that they really have not been given for quite a long time. And that's entirely true, because like we've seen a few different games kind of fill the niche where AAA has failed to do so.
Well, it's not that. He's noting that because people are spending so much more time on fewer games, it's easy for more people to come in because there's space. It's like there's room because they're only able to release one big game a year, while they have a small game that took them, not a long time, but it's like here's an interesting looking game, and the hell of it is that it looks like a low end AAA game. It's you can put it next to Final Fantasy and not see that much of a difference.
Yeah. That's great. That's entirely true. I've been playing through Clair Obscur. Like I've never felt like it was lacking in quality to a point where it for an indie game, it is so polished, in my opinion, for what it does as far as art and music and visuals go. I don't think I've ever noticed that it had like an indie. I don't know if the word would be like stench.
Yeah, I mean, remember Greedfall? It was the same way. It was sort of like a Mass Effect game, except taking place not in the future, and it was really, really polished, and that's why I'm looking forward to whatever they're coming out with Greedfall 2. And I love the fact he's calling out Kane and Lynch's games that was really cool. A lot of people did not like Kane and Lynch and Kane and Lynch 2, and I know the reason. Those stories are so friggin' depressing. Especially Lynch, who massacres all of the hostages because he goes on a psychotic break, and he wakes up and he finds out that he killed all the hostages, and he doesn't know why. It's so depressing. And like, Kane, his daughter hates him, or she's dead.
Like Clair Obscur does have that thing in common with like classic good not Square RPGs, where like occasionally something that would just come out that was just like we didn't know who it came from, we didn't know the name of them, but like it was so good. It was better than it had any business being. Legend of Dragoon is that kind of game, and I've mentioned it before, but Shadow Hearts is also a series that isn't like hugely. It isn't a SquareSoft RPG, but it is a fun one.
But here's the thing: that's why so many people were shocked when Bethesda released Hi-Fi Rush and Shadow dropped it, because it was one of those smaller scale games that still felt really polished. It's like the Dreamcast game you never knew existed. And you need those small games. You need those, that's what Grounded was as well, now that I think about it. Grounded, Gears Tactics, these small games that were like, here, try this. You might like it.
Yeah. And so, and if you think about it, like things like, everybody loved Final Fantasy Tactics, but like Square Enix has not stepped up to kind of do that style of game in like a new or better version. And so indie developers have stepped up and
open world shooter. I mean, remember, a lot of people preferred Rayman to Mario.
Well, and like that's what I'm saying is that indie developers have stepped in and filled that niche. Like Fae Tactics is one that I would say is just as good as Final Fantasy Tactics, if not a little better.
And also, and Scott will know this as well, a lot of people have been stepping up to the plate with smaller JRPG games like Sea of Stars.
Yes.
I mean, that's the sort of game that you'd expect Square Enix to come out with. Sea of Stars is basically a Dragon Quest game.
Well, I was saying Chrono Trigger, but yeah, it's a homage to an older style of RPGs, back in the SNES era, and just making beautiful pixel games again, just really nice. That's what I liked about the Indie Fest. There was such a variety of different pixel games being shown.
Thing that we're seeing more and more JRPG style retro, not quite retro, but retro-ish JRPGs coming out, and none of them are coming out from the major Japanese companies. They're coming out from smaller companies or American companies who enjoy that kind of game, because Square Enix is not making them. They're making Final Fantasy Rebirth, and they're making Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah.
When did Octopath Traveler 2 come out?
That feels like a couple of years ago now. I hope they still make more Octopath games like that.
I mean, Atlas has been stepping up with the mid-range games now. I mean, Metaphor de Fantasio is their one big AAA game, but they're coming out with smaller games all the time. And I would you call Metaphor de Fantasio? for some reason, when I play it, it feels like a AA game. You know,
I would not call that a small game.
I think AA is accurate.
I'm talking about in terms of budget and of scope. You know, it may be a 130-hour game, but it feels like a AA and a half, maybe. It doesn't feel quite like a AAA game to me. It
depends on what your criteria for AAA is.
Well, it doesn't feel like a game that 500 people worked on. You know, it feels like a game that 50 people worked on. Just like Clair Obscur, that studio is around 50 people.
Yeah, it's happy to see it too. Like just 3.3 million sold copies on an RPG.
You know what the best part is, right? Success brings imitators, and people are going to say, "Wait a minute, this game sold that many? Let's make our own version."
Yeah, good for them. This is awesome for not only them, because I hope that we get to see more games out of Sandfall.
Well, Sandfall says that they're working on something, and they're not saying either it's another Clair Obscur or if it's a completely new game. So they're being cagey about what they're working on next. They say they're working on something, but they won't say what it is. I'm willing to bet you it is what I hope it is, it's another game that's like Clair Obscur, but a completely different story and a completely different name. You know, you don't need one IP. Just have a bunch of games, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, we move on to the next item. Go ahead, Scott.
Okay. Electronic Arts cancels Black Panther game and Cliffhanger Games from PC Gamer. Electronic Arts, which has confirmed a IGN report that the Black Panther game announced in 2023 has been canceled. Developer Cliffhanger Games is being closed as a result of the cancellation, and separately EA is also making other layoffs across some of its other teams, although the number of people being put out of work is unknown.
That's not true now. They've said it's 500 people, which is interesting because they had it's sort of like lessening from the number of, they added 800 people at this time last year. So they're subtracting 500. So there's 300 people who were hired last year that are still there. So moving on.
The cancellation of Black Panther game was relayed to employees in an email sent by EA Entertainment and Technology President Laura Mealy. According to the report, Mealy said in the email that the decision to halt the project and shutter the studio was necessary to sharpen our focus and put our creative energy behind the most significant growth opportunities. I hate crap like that. You know, it's like, well, what?
I'm going to comment on that, but continue.
All right. That means Battlefield, The Sims, Skate, and Apex Legends, Mealy said, although EA will also continue work on Iron Man game announced in 2022 and the new Star Wars Jedi game in development and the next Mass Effect game.
So here's something. Not all games that start development actually make it, you know, sometimes they're canceled. And I remember Sid Meier talking about this. He would get these ideas and he would start working on them, and then a little bit of way through he says, this isn't working. Remember he had a dinosaurs game, and one of the things I would have loved to see was a 4X game about dinosaurs, but he didn't think it was going to work, so he said, I'm not going to work. It could very be that the Black Panther game was not working, for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's possible.
I mean,
it's hard to say, though.
It doesn't feel like... It feels like the time has passed where that would have hit the best. Because, like, we haven't had a new Black Panther movie in a few years now.
We haven't had an Iron Man movie in a few years either.
And I'm not saying that discounts the validity of a new Black Panther game, but, like, it feels like there was a time to strike when the iron was hot, and they didn't do it. So that's their own fault.
I think the Wonder Woman game, I think I would have been more interested in.
I don't know.
Because it's Monolith and they were going to use the Nemesis engine with it.
Well, yeah. But, like, I feel the same about the Wonder Woman game, where, like, they had a window to hit that while things were fresh and everything was working, and they just took too long.
The problem is that Cliffhanger Games is just a bunch of developers from a different studio, and Monolith is Monolith.
Yeah, but I still think that they missed their chance to, like, get in on those trends while they mattered.
It's a good what if.
It is.
But here's the thing, they said sharpen their focus on The Sims. What the fuck are they doing with The Sims? They're not doing anything with The Sims.
I don't know.
They are working on it.
I don't care.
I know you don't care, but other people do, Jonah.
They release a new DLC pack for The Sims,
4,
even now.
I don't care about The Sims 5, and they're not going to make The Sims 5 because The Sims 4 sucks.
They're trying to make it not suck.
One of the things that they mentioned was that there was another game in the Titanfall universe that was also canceled, and I'm thinking, please don't I hope it wasn't Titanfall 3.
I don't know, but like it does suck because right before they did this too, right before they closed the studio and laid off those people, they also did a stock buyback where they spent billions of dollars on buying back stocks from their investors, and so it's like, wow, what could you have done if you didn't spend $1.5 billion on a stock buyback? Maybe you could have kept that studio going. Maybe they could have worked on something else. Who knows?
Gosh.
But Andrew Wilson needs to make $26.5 million a year for reasons.
Well, the stockholders, price stocks must go up, no matter what.
Mm-hmm. And Cliffhanger Games is the latest victim of that.
Yeah, well, you know what they can do? They can do like Sandfall, own game, and make people jealous. Yeah. Because remember, Sandfall proved you don't need to be part of a huge publisher to make a game that's going to sell 3.3 million copies in just a few weeks.
Yeah, it just is a bummer that they might have to go that route when really, like, you would think that being part of a multi-million-dollar company would be a pretty golden path towards making the game that you want to make. But no, that's not the case.
I know that Paul would have special words for this. We can't.
Anyway. But I hope those folks get a chance to work on something that they enjoy. I do hope they get their I do hope they get their Sandfall interactive moment.
Hey, that's what happens. You get a bunch of developers together. They offer a game on Kickstarter. It gets funded. So.
Fingers crossed.
Hey, Scott, here's a question for you. Are you backing any other game on Kickstarter?
I think the last one was Seed of Nostalgia.
Sea of Nostalgia, not Sea of Stars? Or Sea of Nostalgia, the sequel?
Well, no, that's separate, totally separate. Sabotage is going on to Game 3, and Sea of Stars was like 3 or 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
So that was a while ago.
And it's still on Game Pass.
Yeah. But after that was Forge of the Fae.
Announced for the Switch too?
What?
Or was it just on the Switch? I know it had a Switch release somewhere.
Yeah. Sea of Stars is on all platforms.
Okay. By the way, speaking of it, there's the Wholesome Games thing coming out, and one game that everybody's looking forward to in June is Date Everything. Have you heard of this game?
No.
So it's a dating sim in which you can date anything in your house, any appliances, any objects, anything. There's hundreds of objects that you can date. And what happens is when you encounter the object, it turns into a human version of that object. So like when you want to date your grand piano, it turns into this woman with a black dress and a belt that looked like piano keys and all that stuff. Look it up. Date Everything. It's the wildest thing. You thought Hatoful Boyfriend was strange. Check out Date Everything. So, next item. Cyberpunk 2077 sequel gets a new name as pre-production phase now officially underway. This comes from Eurogamer. CD Projekt's Cyberpunk 2027 sequel has finally shed its Project Orion codename and will henceforth be known as Cyberpunk 2. That's as the studio provides its latest development update, confirming it's now entered the pre-production phase. A Cyberpunk 2077 sequel was formally announced back in 2022. This doesn't, however, mean the name will permanently stick. CD Projekt told The Verge that Cyberpunk 2 means it's another game in the Cyberpunk universe. The bulk of the studio, as expected, is currently focused on The Witcher 4, with 422 employees assigned to the project. As for what's next, CD Projekt Red has been priming for a Switch 2 version of Cyberpunk 2077 to release alongside the console next week. And oh yeah, by the way, the Switch 2 is coming out next week, and a Mac port is also on the way. The Siri watching Witcher 4, and it's kind of hard to say the Siri's starting because then you think you're playing the game with Apple Siri. There is a goblin coming to get you. Do you want a potion? Which will reportedly take players to the second city, like Chicago gone wrong, to follow, which is what's happening in Cyberpunk 2. So, here's the thing with Cyberpunk. I've never replayed it. I finished it, and I have had no interest in replaying it, simply because the perk system was just awful. Just bad. I'll play the sequel, and I hope that they have a much simpler way of building a character. And no, I did not play Project Liberty.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? For as much as that work as they did on Night City, I am excited to see more. I like the world that they built. That's you said it too. Like the Night City was the best character in Cyberpunk 2077. I am excited to see more of their world building in the Cyberpunk universe, because that is easily the funnest part of those games, is just exploring the city.
And hopefully they're going to make it a console version, then develop it first in the console and then upscale it for the PC. Because a lot of the problems with Cyberpunk 2077 was they developed it for PC and then tried to downscale it for consoles. And consoles like the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 could not handle it.
Yeah, not at all. Like torched those things. Bricked them.
I worked on my Xbox One X. So and that game came out when I had an Xbox One X.
Yeah. And I agree. Like they need to be less shady about the way that they develop it when it comes time to launch. But like I remember the first days of playing this game on playing Cyberpunk 2077 on PS5 and how silly and funny those bugs were.
I never had a bug on the Xbox One X. That's the weird thing. I never had any bugs, not even a crash.
Crazy. That's wild, because on PS5 I saw plenty of silly stuff happen. Like
that's because the Xbox generally runs on a platform similar to Windows, and PlayStation does not.
There was an instance where I subdued a guy and like silent takedown without killing them, and I picked them up on my shoulder to move them into a corner of the room, and something happened when I put them down that they like their body just didn't agree with the terrain, and there was this spazzing loud amount of just like a whole bunch of like collisions, and then they disappeared and there was just a blood stain on the floor. I don't know. I kind of like the early days of a CD Projekt game because of things like that happened, but like I don't know. It was also ridiculous how much of that stuff happened at the time.
Remember, Red Dead Redemption had the mule lady.
Yes,
which woman was a half mule, half old lady, and you could ride her.
Day one bugs are funny on some of these open world games.
Are always funny.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to Cyberpunk 2. I hope they streamline it, because sometimes CD Projekt Red can be right up their own ass. And here's the thing: I never liked any of the Witcher games. I'm sorry, but I didn't. I know it's extremely popular, but I could not stand them. They were not for me, apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine. Not every game is for every person.
Yeah. But here I am, and I don't like Elden Ring, and I don't like Soulsborne games in general. I don't like, I don't like The Witcher. So I'm one of the most uncool guys on the planet. Here I am, still playing Slay the Spire after 400 hours of it. Actually, even more. I've even stopped playing Balatro for some reason. I know what it is. I feel like I've hit a wall in Balatro, and I'll get back to it when I don't feel like I'm still hitting that wall. Because I got that one perfect combination, and I've never been able to recapture it again. You get that, oh yeah, 5 billion, and then you can never recapture it. You get that score ever again. Because that's the problem with a roguelike. You don't get that perfect combination. You need the right clowns, man. You need the right clowns, and they just don't show up when you want them to. To give you an example, that clown that reduces the probability of something going 1, like something that's normally 3-1 is now 2-1. Something that's 2-1 is now 1-1. For one of my strategies, I need him, and he never shows up. So, anyways, look for our show notes at gamingpodcast.net, along with industry news and our gaming history articles. We enjoy your feedback. Comment at gamingpodcast.net. Also, this up at facebook.com/gamingpodcast. Subscribe to us on iTunes. Leave us an iTunes comments. You can find me on Twitter Blue Sky at Jonah.
You can find me at Johnny Chugs.
You can find me at Chart the Sage.
And we will see you next week. And you know what? I'm going to go to YouTube and watch that JRPG. At least I can see a lot of what those games were, because I just got back in. I was going to watch it, but I didn't have time to watch it. There's a shit ton of things coming up in the next 2 weeks. We have the PC Gaming Show. We have the Wholesome Games. We have Microsoft. We have it hasn't been announced yet, but there is going to be a state of play. Nintendo hasn't confirmed anything, but then again, they have the Switch coming out on the 6th. They're probably going to have a Direct as well. There's a lot of stuff coming, and we're going to have to talk about all of it.
Yeah, the summer's heating up with some good stuff.
Anyways, we will see you next week.
Happy gaming, everyone.
Have fun, be cool, play games, y'all.